Alright, let's do this. Copying Carnifexes, episode 7. We're going to talk about some close combat monsters. I guess not just the close combat monsters, but all the Tyranid close combat units. I got to thinking with the new Raveners coming out, what's the best that we have now? And so I decided to do a little math hammers. If you never used Unit Crunch before, it's an absolutely fantastic simulation website. It has basically all the modifiers. You can put any unit in for like attacking, you can put different defensive profiles, and you can save profiles. I did hit the caps on how many entries you can have in at once, and how many you can have it total out at once. And I think it does like 10,000 simulations or something. I forget what the number is. I think it shows me somewhere, but I put a lot of Tyranid close combat profiles in. I put the point values by their names for reference. I am doing it at 150% at the moment too. Makes it a little better. If it's a unit that has synapse in it all the time, either it is a synapse creature itself or it has a synapse creature in its unit, I bumped its strength up already for all this because it's always going to have that. With the exception of the regular Raveners, I'm not assuming that they're joining the hyper adept Ravener unit. Which is something I overlooked in my last video. I realized when I was looking at everything when it came out. I did not realize the hyper adept Raveners, the hyper adaptation. Sorry, I keep calling them hyper adept. They can join the regular Ravener unit, or the regular Ravener can join them, which is insane because all of a sudden the regular Raveners pass off uppy downy to them, and they pass off the free rapid ingress and heroic intervention and the sustained hits, and then half of them are really good at killing big things. But all of them are strength 6 because there's a synapse creature in the unit. And it's kind of a little ridiculous. But I start with like the smaller, nothing small here. The more medium, those smaller infantry units for its profiles. I have quite a few defensive ones. Some of these are modified, so ignore parts where it says 5 marine rifles or whatever. It is a 10-man marine equivalent unit with the 4 toughness, 2 and 3+ save. And here we can kind of get our medians and everything. It's really nice. We can see like a Genestealer unit, rocking 230 points is going to wipe out a marine unit most likely. Doing well over 20 damage. It's mostly all individual damage. It's going to kind of chip out through. And this is just whatever their base buffs would be from their own unit. This is no like invasion fleet modifiers yet or stratagems or anything like that. It's just base profiles for all these things here. Everything can be buffed here. Pure Raveners, they're going to get rid of 6 Marines because they're doing 2 damage each time. Hyper Adept are going to get an average of 9 down. The Melee Warriors are going to do a little math. They're also going to average about 9 down. They are throwing way more dice. So if you factor in things like sustained hits with invasion fleets, the numbers change a bit because the Hyper Adept Warrior or Hyper Adaptation Raveners are already have sustained hits on their profile. They are twin lanes. Raveners aren't included with it right now. That'll be pretty good. You gotta remember too, this 165-point unit. This is a 215-point unit with 7 models versus 5 models. This moves faster. These hyper adaptation Raveners are kind of insane. The unit together is 190 points if you want to put the 10-man Ravener unit together. Which I'm on the fence about if it's worthwhile or not, because it is really good, but they might be better separate. But yeah, when you're just comparing like those base units together, right out the gate, the hyper adaptation Raveners are kind of pulling ahead a little bit. Genestealers, on the other hand, I mean, it's only a little bit more. It's 230 points. Yeah, it's doing 25 damage as opposed to 18. They're a really good unit. Honestly, right now, right out the gate, in my opinion, I've been looking over those numbers for a while too. The Genestealer unit with the Broodlord and the Hyper Adaptation Raveners are probably like the 2 best close combat units and units in general against almost every situation. Situations though that the Warriors are going to kind of outshine the Raveners, but the Genestealers still outshine just about everything, is any large units with single wound models. Any of those 20-man guard units, orc units, Um, what else? I think some of the cultish units, any of those like just single wound units, toughness 3, toughness 4, you kind of mow through them. I guess orcs are gonna be toughness 5, so they're a little bit more difficult, but still you're gonna chunk through them pretty decently. Just because of the plethora of attacks, and so anything that gives you like the sustained hits. Wait, warriors already have. Don't they already have sustain from the prime? Oh, yeah, they do. They already have sustain included in their profile as well. So yeah, that is what's sustained with them. The Ravner or the Gene Stealers pull ahead with sustain against infantry quite a bit, even more so than they already are. But they are slightly more expensive than the war unit and a bit more expensive than the hyper adept Ravners. So we'll see here. But then let's change profiles here. We start hitting a Terminator unit. Our toughness 5, 2 plus saves, 4 plus invulnerable saves. Gene Saves still kind of pull ahead. What's looking at Brewlord's getting rid of 2. They're getting rid of what's 3 per, so they're getting rid of 4. So probably like 5, 6 Terminators with the Gene Stealer unit. Raveners are getting rid of 4. They're getting rid of 3. So together it's 7, I think maybe 8 total if they had sustained as well. So the full Ravener unit hits pretty good, but the individual Raveners aren't doing too terrible. And your melee warriors, what? It's gonna be 4, 4.5-ish Terminators. So everyone's kind of hitting kind of somewhere on par with each other for the most part. The one that kind of pulls ahead. Gene Slayers pulls slightly ahead, I feel like, on that. Well, the Raptors do really, really well on that as well, too, here, just because of the extra damage. But I think that's where the 2 damage kind of falls off, and the individual damage with the extra attacks kind of helps out a little bit. But as we move, I keep scrolling the wrong way. But as you move into bigger units, like if we do like an Art Emissary on point, because I just know from experience they're extremely hard to kill. Funeral Pain gets a little funky on here, so bear with those numbers a little bit. The Gene Stealers are probably doing like an average 7 wounds in Art Emissary on a charge. The Raveners, it's looking like I feel like this should be slightly higher. It shouldn't be half damage not ignored. The 8 damage dealt, I feel like it should be 6. So I think it should be like 6 and yeah, I think the 2 is probably accurate here. I think sustain to be a little bit higher. The melee warriors, what damage dealt? This should be a little higher too. This should be like 4 wounds. And this should be like at least 1. This should be about 5. So they're still like it's still pretty similar at this point, just because the heightened strength from melee warriors still throw out pretty good with the higher damage because it gets broken down by Funeral Pain. But this all do pretty decent. So the Funeral Pain thing it's really weird on here. We start throwing buffs on things though. You start like throwing like lethals against monsters, like run an invasion fleet. They all do pretty on par, honestly, and it kind of buffs everything pretty well. Gene Stealers kind of lose their some of their mortal wounds. Lethal hits. Or no, they keep it, but I'm sorry, they have less chances to roll mortal wounds with all the lethal hits, but guaranteed hits are really nice though too. It's just because like, and it's again because the point difference between Ravners and like the warrior unit, it's like that Ravner unit hits a little above its weight class in general. And then also I'll compare like Rogodoran. We're starting in the toughness 12. And so where the hyper adept Ravners really start to shine the rest. They just hit monsters so good. Critting anything, higher than toughness 11 or still on 5s, or all wounding or whatever. It's really freaking good. That's where they start pull ahead. The Gene Stealers, everything else. Granted, if you're running Evasion Fleet and you're running lethal hits, Gene Stealers still do pretty good. Warriors still throw a lot of wounds out. But you still kind of perform a bit better. We can compare it real fast. I have it set up. You just perform a little better in general, though. Like, they're all really similar on par, but I just feel like the Ravner just pull ahead a little bit. So this is up to, if we do lethal hits, it gets us up to 12 damage on average with the Ravners. Warriors hit up to 10, they shoot up quite a bit. Regular Ravners pull up quite a bit with 6, and then Gene Slayers are looking at like about 14 between them and the Broodlords, so. Still pretty good. That full unit of Ravners, though, like if you were to run the 10-man unit of it and charge into a Rogodoran, you're probably going to remove the Rogodoran, because it's without sustain on these guys too here, which I could, because they're going to have sustain all the time. Well, nor for the Gene Stealers right now, but so yeah, if you did the full 10-man Ravner unit, it's looking at like an average of 20 wounds against something like a Rogodoran. And if you can kill things like a Rogodoran and, you know, a Norn Emissary, and go switch back to the Norn real fast, then you can kill things like Angron, because Angron's basically got the same defensive stats as a Norn Emissary, just without Feel No Pain. Or not, yeah, no Feel No Pain on him. I'm not sure if there's a way to give it to him, but go back to the Norn, we have the lethal hits, and then sustain on the Ravners too. Look at 16. So the unit of Ravners could take out the. Well, they could do enough wounds to potentially take out the Norn on average. Depends on those Feel No Pain saves. But then when we compared them to the monsters, I was really thrown off. Granted, I always remind myself, our monsters creatures have way more to do than just throw damage. They usually have other effects, or you know, they're extremely tanky. Well, some of them I was really surprised by how low their damage is. Some of them have, you know, multiple attack profiles, some of them have weapons. They get everyone. I threw the Trigon Prime in too, just out of curiosity with him. So it is something new. And we'll switch back to the Marina. It's actually surprising how many of the monsters aren't wiping out the Tame Marina just because they're limited attacks, even though they do have really high damage. They can get tied up on a Marine unit for a turn or two if it's not wounded. Oh, it throws me off too because I got rid of the Mortal Wound thing here. See if we compare like just the Hyper Adept Ravners by themselves. Even with the Swarmlord, they outdamage the Swarmlord. They throw damage on par with the Huspex though, which is kind of funny. Yeah, the Huspex is only killing 4 models, and they're gonna get rid of most of the unit. But you know, Swarmlord average taking down just 4 is it's kind of. Isn't it Twin Link though? I feel like that should be higher. I forgot to put it on. No, it's on there. You should be winning them on 2s. Yeah, what profile are we against? Yeah, we're against Marines. I feel like the Swarmlord one's wrong. I can go with the 7 hits, but Twin Link should give him rerolls on the wound. So that and it's wounding on 2s. That should be a little higher. That should be like probably 6 or 7. Like consistently, I feel like if we're rerolling, but it's still less models than Tyranid. And granted, he doesn't have enough attacks to take over the unit by himself, so he hits big things really well though too. Well, kinda. Huspex again only get rid of like 4 models. Screamer Killer's gonna rid of like 4 models. Norn Emissary, disappointingly, it's only like 5 models. But he has other purposes. He's really tanky, he's got some decent shooting profiles. Screamer Killer throws out a lot of attacks though. And again, he's only about rid of average of 4, just because he doesn't really have rerolls going on for him, so. But his damage is high, so. Trigon Prime, Indrugro Trigon. And it's a plethora of attacks, but they're hitting on 3s. His is hitting on 2s. Don't have any rerolls. So that seems about average too. Again, they're not really wiping out a Marine unit. They're quite big investments, but you really don't want them going against necessarily a 10-man Marine unit by themselves, or one that's like full health, I guess is. But then you compare them to like a Terminator unit. And the Trigon, it's getting rid of 3 or 4 models still, but on average, but still that's at least against Terminators. They're gonna save about half of them. Norn Emissary only getting rid of about 3. Again, the strength is how much damage he can take. I'm okay with that. He's holding an objective. He's 260 points of I'm tanking 1,000 points of an army for a turn or two, on like in a lot of games, and it's kind of insane and it's really silly, and it happens a lot. There's only a couple times it went down to very little, but anyways, like, you know, there's that 10% chance here and there. Yeah, Screamer Killer, you know, get rid of 3. I mean, granted, like, a lot of our monsters are pretty well priced, though. 135 points, that 10-man Terminator unit is quite a bit more, and you're getting rid of. But 5-man's 200 points, so, I mean, you're dealing about your points and damage, though. Auspex is probably going to get rid of just 2 models with how the damage would break down. A lot of these have the advantage that they're doing 3 damage each hit. Oh, the Norn would be, yeah, because that one was only doing 2, those ones are doing 3, so the Norn would be a little funky with that too. Raveners too, compared them earlier, but it's only like 3 models. Probably, yeah, and then 2 models. So, but it's still getting 5, it's still keeping up. I mean, 3 models is keeping up with most of the monster creatures on here too. And it's easier to hide, it's a little more vulnerable, and it's infantry, so it can go through the ruins and everything and have a fantastic day. Compare the monsters that are like a Norn, though? It's kind of crazy. I can accept damage dealt to damage on Norn. I can accept these results for the Raveners, so the Raveners averaging at about like 10 damage on a Norn in the charge. I'm like, okay. Or 7 damage. I can live with that. It's yeah, literally half its, or about half its health. So it's pretty decent. It's pretty decent because he can take a lot. This is unbuffed. Stormlord going in, 3 damage on Nord. I feel like that'd be closer to 4. But he also needs 5's the wound. So I feel like the math works out on that one. Prospects. Why is it 3.5? Anyways, Prospects kinda, like, he's got decent damage, but the feel no pain and the invulnerable save, I feel like it screws him over quite a bit. He's only got 4 of the big attacks. I feel like he's better against like a little bit lighter things like toughness 10. He's only 125 points, so he is pretty cheap. Screamer Killer. 7, yeah, because he's rolling up even its toughness or strength 10. It's rolling its toughness 11. It doesn't have twin link or anything like that, so I could see it still getting like 2 or 3 damage though. I feel like it's the math's not mathing. It should be at least 2. I feel like. Norn Emissary against a Norn Emissary. Again, I feel like it should be doing at least 2 damage. That's a lot. These are like, considered pretty beefy close combat monsters too in general. And then Trigons and Trigon Prime. Again, they don't really have rerolls, so the hits seem great. Yeah, toughness 11. Yeah, so he's gonna have about half. He's strength 9, so he's rolling 5s. I feel like it should be 4 damage and 2 damage. And then we go back to these guys again, doing roughly about 5. So they kind of outpace most of the monsters a little bit too. You know, like I said, the monsters have other utility other than just pure damage, but it's kind of cool how they hit like a little bit above it. And then last one was compare the World of War real fast here. And again, Raveners, they had the hyper ones, they got 10 damage. Regular ones looking about 4. It'd probably go up to 5 if they had sustained hits on them right now. And if they're strength 6, it would be about the same for them otherwise. So maybe they might do like an extra hit, maybe, so it might be 6 damage total. So we're gonna get really close to get rid of the World War with them. Swarmlord, Again, he's stringing 5s. He does have Twin Link, though. That seems about average. 2 unsaved because it's still saving on 5s. I feel like that should be 3. I feel like it should be closer to 9, 6 or 9. Yeah, somewhere between 6 and 9 on average. I think because of the damage is throwing off like the curve of the information. Prospects, average is 7 damage. What's one hit though? It's D6 plus 1. Wouldn't the average be 4? I guess the average of D6 is 4, right? So that's what bumps it up to 5. I guess. Yeah, damages the swarm more technically. Mathematically speaking, at least. Screamer Killer. Top or strength 10 monster, but doesn't really have any rerolls of NFL, still rolling. Needs 5s to wound it. So yeah, 1 through an average. 3 damage. Norn, same 3 damage average. Oh no, 5 damage because of extra attacks. Okay, I can live with that. Because he's also rolling up, because his strength on those is, what, 10 and 8 or whatever, so... And I'm talking around him, because he's, even with his rock and the strength 11, it's going to throw him down quite a bit. I feel like this average should be a little high. He's running 5s. This should be slightly higher, I feel like. I feel like it should be closer to 3 wounds on average, so he should probably be doing, like, closer to 6 or 9 damage with the Storm Lord. With the regular Trigon, probably being closer to, like, 2 wounds going through, but... Yeah, I've just been, like, looking through and just comparing the Ravners, because I've been like, man, are they going to be, like, really actually viable to use? Are they a better close combat option? And, like, when you start stacking them up against everything else, it's like, man, they hit just as hard as everything else on its own without looking at points. Or, like, a little bit above. And then you start comparing the points of them to other things, and it's like, oh, so they're, for their point value, yeah, they're toughness 5, they're 4-up save, they're basically the same profile as the Warriors, and they do a bit better than the Warriors, and they're a lot faster. They have more utility, they have more mobility in general with all their rules. They're throwing out higher damage attacks. They're going to get what you want them to, and they have the same fragility to them, unfortunately. If you want to run the full Ravener unit for the 290 points too, like, that's a huge blast cannon unit. It's not like it's a Death Star unit. I mean, it's going to hit like a truck against almost everything. If you're running an invasion fleet too, and your opponent's a lot of vehicles, so you're throwing lethal hits on things, they get really crazy with a 10-man Ravener unit. Like, it's a little insane. So you get to this point, like, so I said, like, in my first video I was talking about them, where they feel like they're like a really good, like, come down mid-game and just start cleaning up. Because, like, any of the really big threats that are a little wounded from your Exocrine shooting, your Maliceptor, your Norn shooting, your Hive Tyrant, your Zone Throws, your whatever didn't get finished by your Tyranifexes, they're going to come in and they're for sure going to finish it. Like, that's insane. Like, the Gene Stealers are going to do the same thing, though, too. Like, them and the Gene Stealers are just like your cleanup units. If you can keep them safe, and keep them protected, and keep them, like, kind of like a lot of crazy fire, they do such insane damage. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then you start throwing buffs on them too. Make them crit on 5s or something. Or, like I say, you're running Invasion Fleet and give them lethal because they're not really going to benefit from sustain on the Ravners. Or you throw, like, precision on them when you need it to. Oh my gosh. Like, there's silly things you can do. They can do a lot of damage to a Baneblade in a turn. Then with, like, your shooting, with a little bit of your Tyranid shooting, like your Tyranifex hitting a Baneblade and doing, like, some damage to it, and then your Ravener unit charging it, it's probably going to kill it. Like, that's what I'm going to compare it to. I have it on the other tab. Where I was comparing the Carnifexes and trying out, like, the different, like, melee weapons and everything with them, too. For, like, a 380 point unit, it's just, like, yeah, they're going to crush a Worgelborn. Yeah, they're gonna crush, like... They don't do that great against a Norn, I think, actually, yet. Like, they do okay, I think, but they don't do amazing. Yeah, they don't one-turn it, they're quite a bit chunkier and more expensive than it. Even when you're just running the Crushing Claws with the extra Sliding Talons, like, going for it, or you're actually rolling 3s to wound it, like, they're just... They just don't do it, man. And it's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is, I guess. Because it's a 380 point unit. It should be a little bit better. And they're not as tough as our other monsters creatures, so. But yeah, I really think the Raveners are going to be something to really try out. The 10-man unit may be something to play around with. But even the 5-man unit is going to be this fantastic cleanup unit. And if you want to save some points, the Hyper Adept Raveners probably could replace your Gene Stealing Blue unit to save you some points and hit about the same weight class. And so the only time there's going to be a huge exception to that is like when they're really buffed, the Gene Slayers are going to benefit a little bit more just because of the 40 attacks versus like the 18 or 33 attacks. And they already have sustain, so they don't benefit from sustain. That's already built in their profile. So, where the Gene Stealers are going to be a little bit swingier because of the sheer number of attacks in general compared to the points. But even still, the Ravening unit for being like the full 10-man Ravening unit for being 60 more than the Gene Stealer unit, I feel like does enough to like make up for it with its utility and its speed and everything. So it's like it seems like you can uppy downy them and the whole units together with the 10-man because the regular Raveners pass it off to the full unit, and then they can rapid ingress for free, and they can heroic intervention for free. Like, imagine that as a countercharge unit. Like, man, someone's gonna regret that. They will never make that mistake again after the first time. Even it's like I'm gonna tank shock one of your monsters, my tank, and then my Raptors heroic intervention and wreck that tank. Could be awesome. Get someone off guard with it. But yeah, I just want to talk about the little mass. I've been brainstorming and on like a weird little like nerd math hammer rant, and I figured I'd just kind of share what I came across. They seem really, really good. They have a lot of benefits. We'll just have to see here. I also kind of emphasizes the point with some of like like seeing the numbers for like the close combat for like just the averages, the subterranean the onslaught or whatever, subterranean assaults detachment with the tunnels and everything, be able to essentially deep strike things within 6 inches and charge makes a lot of your close combat things really, really nasty. Like especially that Gene Stealer unit popping up out of a tunnel, those tunnel reserves, and then making a 6-inch charge. Just saying. Thing you can do now. So, alright. Thanks for hearing me rant and be on a little bit of a tangent. Hopefully it made some coherent sense. But y'all have a good one. Take care. Oh yeah, drink some coffee.